Hello and welcome to this week's episode of #Leadership What's on Your Mind. Remember, we're a podcast to make you stop and think about your leadership journey, be it by bringing amazing guests with amazing stories and experts in their field. So today we are speaking to Kevin Gallagher. How are you doing?
Really good, thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, fab. So I've been looking forward to getting you on here because I love how you share stories, perspectives, and we've got some similar ex-military backgrounds, and we're going to be talking about Fergie at some point as well. So let's get started. Okay, so for the people who don't know you, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, as I hit the 20-minute timer.
Okay, so let's go right back to the beginning, or school days, shall we say. My favourite subject at school was truancy, or wagging it as we used to call it. If it was an Olympic sport, I'd be on the podium for it, and that led to me dropping out of school really early on and running off to join the Navy. And I had 8 awesome years in the Navy, where I trained as an electronic engineer, weapons engineer. So my specialist subject was radar communications and weapons systems. And when I left, I came home and I put my CV out there. And bear in mind, this is 1982. I sat there and I was waiting for the phone to ring. I'm still waiting, by the way. It never happened. So that led us down the line of going to a 22-year trip into the hospitality industry, which included 6 pubs, 4 restaurants and 2 hotels. And I'm a bit slow on the uptake sometimes, and it took me 22 years to realise that actually I didn't like what I was doing. I was pretty good at what I was doing, and Sue, aka the boss, well, she was awesome at doing it, but I was doing it for all the wrong reasons. I was doing it for money, which isn't always the best reason to do things. And so what we decided to do was take a couple of months off, which quickly turned into 2 years, because you enjoy yourself when time flies when you're enjoying yourself. But what I did was when I say I had 12 businesses, and they were all successful to a degree, 10 of them really successful, 2 not so. It makes it look like it was easy. It was, but it wasn't. It was really hard work. It was a hard slog. We used to work long hours, and we made lots and lots of mistakes. And those mistakes cost me and us a fortune in time and money. And now, if I was to ask you what's the biggest expense you ever have in your house, in your life, most people would say a house. That's the biggest expense, and it's not. The biggest expense you ever pay in your life is tax, right? And there's sort of 3 forms of tax that people pay. There's income tax, corporation tax, and there's value-added tax, VAT. But those 3 actually pale into insignificance, because there's the 4th type of tax that we pay, and we don't even realise we're paying it, and that's dumb tax. Because what I've noticed, mostly through my own dumbness, is that people in business make lots and lots of mistakes. So when we were coming to the point of the end of the 3 years, what could I do? What could I do? And I thought, well, there must be the people out there who are paying this dumb tax. It wasn't just me. So what I discovered, actually, that lots of people pay dumb tax, because for some reason, perfectly intelligent people make stupid mistakes. They make stupid decisions in business. So we set up Momentum Performance Coach about 14 years ago, with the aim of helping people pay less dumb tax, but also using our experience at growing businesses, which we're good at, to help them grow the business. So our tagline, if you want it, is to help people or guide people to take their 6-figure business to 7 figures and beyond in a really profitable and cash-rich way.
Yeah, excellent. I love that dumb tax. How true is that?
Yeah, oh yeah. I still pay it. I drop my foot in it quite a lot with the boss.
Yeah. So let's go to leadership. #Leadership. What's on your mind? What comes to your mind when you hear the word leadership?
Oh, like a definition.
Yeah, whatever comes to mind.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a bit like what's the meaning of life, that one, isn't it? Because some really good definitions out there, and most of them are right. Most of them sort of resonate. I quite like the John Maxwell one. Leadership is influence, and I think one of your previous guests, David Marquette, he came up with an absolutely brilliant one. I thought was leadership is what happens when you're not there. And then, of course, you've got your different models like Blanchard's sort of continuum of the situational leadership. But I'm guessing you don't want me to quote someone else's quote, so I'm going to give you a slightly different slant on it. Yeah, so I think of a business or a team or an organization as a group of people that are in relationship. So they're in relationship with themselves. Everybody's got a relationship with themselves, but they've also got a relationship with others in the business. They'll have a relationship with their boss, but they're also in relationship with your vision, your mission, your values, your goals and the aspirations of the business. And they'll also have a relationship with their roles and responsibilities, with their dashboard. They'll have a relationship with their environment. They might have a relationship with the car parking space. I can remember one day I had a client, and the manager of the company used to always be in the same car parking space every day. And the way he got into that same car parking space wasn't because it was reserved. It was because he arrived first so he could have that parking space. So one day what the team did was they all arrived early as a joke to get in there. And he couldn't get into his car parking space. And he had a horrible day. He was a horrible person to be around. He was making mistakes, global. So he definitely had a relationship with that car parking space. But anyways, I digress. So the thing is, as a leader, I think your job is a bit like you're the person at the front of an orchestra. You've got the baton, and you've got to keep a rhythm going between all those relationships. You've got to make sure that everybody's playing the same tune, so that everybody's playing the same tune and they're playing it to the same beat, they're playing it to the same rhythm. And you do that by putting rhythms in place, like you'll have a rhythm in and around planning, you'll have a rhythm in and around team meetings, you'll have a rhythm in and around possibly 360-degree feedback, or a rhythm around appraisals. You'll have a rhythm around how you share interdepartmental information. You could have when you get those rhythms going, what will tend, and a few others, what you tend to get is you've got more chance, if you can have that rhythm, of having success within the business or with success within the team. If you don't have those rhythms, then you've got a bit of a bumpy ride, and it could even be you'll end up in a car crash.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. And again, just brings it to life. And I love telling different stories as well. So thank you so much for that. And staying with you, where do you think your leadership journey started? Whether it's on reflection or whether there was a light bulb moment at the time, how far back are we going? Where did your journey start?
It started around about 12-ish.
Okay.
So at the time, I was keen on football. I was a budding footballer. I wasn't a Ronaldo or anything like that. I was effective in a team. I was nicknamed the Combine Harvester because I just mow people down. And I was in the school team. But at the weekends, as a bit of a loss, what could I do? There were local teams, but they didn't cater for my age group. And I discovered a new league started up, which is outside of my area, an under-14s league. So I thought, well, we could have a team in that league. So I approached the people that were running the league, and I said, will you give us a go? I know we're outside your area, will you give us a go? And I managed to twist their arm up the backs and convince them that they should give my team a go. So they gave me a month to get everything together, which meant all the registration of players, the ground arranged, everything we needed to run a football team. And that's absolutely brilliant, apart from one fact. There was only one player in the team, and that was me. So I had 1 month to convince at least a dozen other people to come and join me. We needed to get everybody registered. I had to convince everybody who needed to pay subs, so that we were generating some money. I needed to find a home ground. I needed to find equipment, for instance, footballs and nets and things to pump them things up. We needed home and away kits. We possibly needed a manager. We'll need transport to get to the away games. The manager preferably would be an adult who knew what to do, because I certainly didn't. And we also needed some kind of admin person. Now, I think I've covered most of what we needed, but there was one big elephant in the room. I had no budget. There was no money for it. So I don't really remember exactly how I pulled it off, but I did. And 1 month later, Benchill Boys was born. And in our first season, we finished 4th in the league, and in our second season, we finished 2nd in the league. And by then, I was 14, and I was over age at 14. Who believe it? So I couldn't play for them anymore. But I was lucky, because in the meantime, I'd been picked up by Manchester City junior team, and asked me to come and join them. Which actually, some people might think, well, that's great, isn't it? Well, actually, it's not when you're a United fan. Putting on a sky blue kit's not the best thing for you to do. But the other thing was, because I could no longer have an involvement in Benchill Boys, that team actually folded that year. So I think that that's my first sort of excursion into leadership, which was very much a made up sort of a making up as a go type of thing. And then, of course, when I joined the Navy, I got a much more structured approach to it. I don't know if it made me a better leader, but it was a much more structured approach to it.
Yeah, amazing. So just a quick question, just to really dive into that. So where do you think the skill set, do you think it was a skill set to bring people together, or do you think it was just a want to play football?
It was a want. It was definitely fueled by vision.
Right, yeah.
Now, I knew what I wanted, and I wasn't going to give up on that. And I was quite determined to do that. To pull that lot together in a month took. At the time, I didn't think anything of it, but when I look back at it now, I think, look, that's bloody amazing. And it was. And so I give myself a pat on the back for that.
Yeah, and it's good because when we've talked across all the podcasts here, when we ask people to go back, I've sometimes have conversations afterwards or before when we're talking about how far do you go back, because you can really, it ignites the vision of where that person is today, and that's where it started, and you can start thinking, I can see where we are today, where it's come from. Fantastic. So what are you currently dealing with? So what's currently going on? What do you see in the leadership world as far as where leadership is at, and also especially in the last 12 months, now we're sort of coming into the new norm. What are you seeing in regards to leadership?
Quite a lot of shift. The world's changed, and what I sort of dread a little bit, we want to get back to business as normal, because I don't know that we can ever go back to business as normal. Things have changed. Some things have changed for the better. Some things perhaps we've got to adapt. But definitely leaders, the leaders who are thriving at the minute are the leaders who have adapted to change. The leaders who've taken it on the chin, and I think in a way the leaders who've got a line in their head that say obstacles make me stronger, because it's been a big obstacle this year to a lot of leaders, and they've stepped around it, they've gone through it, they've broken through it, they've climbed over it, whatever it is they've done in their business. And some, like one of my particular clients has actually massively grown his business this year, while lots of his competition have gone. They've closed the doors, but that's purely and simply down to his leadership, his ethos, and his attitude towards the problem.
Also, he had the vision to start that team that you did.
yeah.
So let's talk about our friend behind you on that picture, because we obviously share the passion of the good old Man United and the leader that is Sir Alex Ferguson. Tell us a little bit about your vision of him.
Well, I think he's the greatest. This isn't a picture, by the way. This is my altar. The thing about Fergie, and I think about the leadership, and I think about leadership and leadership journey. There's things that I love about Fergie. There's things that I think that are brilliant, but there's other things about Fergie that perhaps I'm not so keen on. His hairdryer treatment, things like that. That doesn't resonate with me. His Fergie time. He's always on his watch. So there's bits of his makeup that I don't particularly resonate with me. But what I think we can learn from that is, well, what are the things that I would tap into if I could be like Fergie? What are the elements of his makeup that I like? What are the qualities that I like? What are the beliefs that I like? What are the values that I like? And then I'm talking about Fergie, but I could also, you could say, what do I admire about Richard Branson? What do I admire about Elon Musk? What do I admire about my own coach? What do I admire perhaps about my dad or my mum and dad? What a parent? It could be whoever it is. And what you do is when you get all those qualities together, what you've got to recognize is that if you can recognize those qualities in others, then you've got those qualities inside you. You may have to do some work on them. They may not be as strong as they are in those other people, but that you recognize them, they work for you. So one of the things you can do now is you've got that gives you your ingredients, if you like, or your recipe for leadership. And you can also add a cherry on the top, because you can also sit back and think, well, what about myself? What about when I was on it? I was really on it. When I was on one of them hot knife through butter days. When everything was effortless. What beliefs and traits and characteristics were coming to the fore for me in that occasion? And those things, we can throw that into the mix. And then what you do with that is then each day, just turn around and say, all right, let's pick one of those traits. Assertiveness, say, for instance. Right, assertiveness. On a scale of 1 to 10, what do I score myself now on assertiveness? Well, it's a 5. All right, what do I need to do today to get that to a 7? And that becomes my focus for the day. At the end of the night, have a look back. What did I learn? What would I do different? What would I do again? And then the next day, I can pick another trait out the mix, if you want, and go to work on that. And what effectively I'm doing when I do it that way is I'm looking at how do I get the best version of me, or a better version of me, to show up on a more regular basis. So it's how do I go from who I'm being now to who I could become, given my potential, on a more and so that the better version of me shows up on a more regular basis. So that's my recipe, if you like, for leadership. That's how I think you can become a better leader.
Yeah, and it fits into that category, doesn't it? About it starts with self, and I'm always talking about self-awareness, and then adding that situational awareness piece in there as well.
Yeah. Oh,
Do you find? Obviously, I've spoken since I left the military about my observation of everybody's busy being busy. Do you see that out there?
Yeah, I don't think people take enough time to sort of step back from life. Critical thinking time, I think it's called, but it's I haven't got time for critical thinking time. Well, it's like we haven't got time not to critically think. It should be a diary date, which actually gives me something I want to bring up, if I can bring it up, another story, if you like. Because this was a light bulb moment, because I said earlier on that my favourite subject at school was truancy. What I used to do was go and have adventures. So one day I was in Manchester, I was on Deansgate, and I had this light bulb come into my head. One of my heroes had just opened a shop just around the corner. So I went down to the nearest shop. If I hang around here, I might bump into my hero. And I was there for about 2 hours. I was probably about 13 at the time, and 12, 13. And I hung around for about 2 hours, no sign of him. So I thought, oh, well, I'll go to the cafe across the road and get myself a cup of tea. And I went into the cafe and it was absolutely ram-packed. So when I got to the counter, got myself a cup of tea, turned around, and just at that moment, a table opened up, a table for 4 people. And I leapt on it straight away, just sat down in the first chair, which meant I had my back to the door, by the way. And I'm drinking my tea, and then someone had left the newspaper, so I'm reading the newspaper, drinking my tea, keeping myself to myself, and then suddenly I hear this voice saying, do you mind if I grab a chair? Do you mind if I join you? And I turn around, and who is it? It's my hero, and it's George Best.
Oh, amazing.
And what we did was we ended up having a half-hour chat. And that half-hour chat, and then at the end of it, he said to me, look, if you're ever in here and you see me in here, just come over and we'll have another chat. No, great. And that happened on about 6 different occasions. I went down there and I managed to bump into him. Lots of occasions I didn't bump into him, but we'd always have a good chat. And it was in one of those chats, he asked me a question, and that is, what you like at football? You only good at football? And I said, well, I'm okay, but I'm not like you. I haven't got your natural talent. And he said to me that, like, look, I don't know about this natural talent thing. He said, but what I can absolutely guarantee you, if you saw me when I was a child, I had a ball at my feet all the time. He went to bed with a ball, but he ate and slept football. Every moment he could, he was practicing football, practicing, because he had this vision of being the world's greatest footballer. Now, and the other thing was that he was saying no to things that his friends were saying yes to. I know we made up for that later on in life, like, but the thing was, and that sort of gave me that tip. Gave me one of my sort of greatest coaching interventions, if you like. Because when people say they're not getting the results they want, or they're not very good at something, I say, well, show me your diary. Let's have a look at your diary. And what do you want to see my diary for? Well, I open the diary. Let's have a look. I say, where's the practice sessions for this thing that you're not very good at? And they're never in there. So if someone's not very good at leadership, well, where are you practicing leadership? Where are you spending the time to practice leadership? Not very good at sales. Where are you practicing doing this practice itself? It's never in the diary. And if we want to get better at something, then we've got to practice. So that's my big tip from George Best. If it's good enough for George Best, it's good enough for everybody else, I think. Yeah, and the thing is within the diary, I ask people to see their diary, and there's no practice routine. There's no time put aside for practicing. The same as we just speaking about critical thinking time. There's no time put aside for it. But if you want to get better at something, you need to practice it. And if it's good enough for George Best, my guess is it's good enough for everybody else, including me.
Yeah, amazing. So listen, we've got 1 minute left.
Ooh. Right.
Did you want to mention, we were just talking about something to do with the phone, the sword. Do you want to try and get that squeezed in?
I won't be able to fit that in a minute.
So hints and tips, any hints and tips? Obviously, our audience are wanting to level up their leadership. So what are your little things that people need to be starting to implement? I know practice is probably one of them, but anything else?
Yeah, I think one of the things about this, I mentioned about Fergie, there's a line out there, and it's be yourself because everyone else is taken. Don't try to copy someone else. Pick up the traits and the characteristics of that person that you like, but mix that blend so it's the leader that you want to be and the leader that you need to be to lead whatever it is you're leading.
Thank you so much for your time today, guys. If you enjoyed that episode, make sure that you hit the subscribe button, hit the follow button on our YouTube. Thank you so much for your time today.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
That's all right. And obviously, I'm going to put your links and your connections in the comments below for guys to go and check you out as well. So thank you so much, everybody. See you next week.